So I have a question for you. If you were to describe a color, maybe the color red for instance, but you couldn't use any other colors as a reference, and you couldn't use any objects like an apple as a reference, how would you do it? If visuals were completely off the table, how would you describe red? Maybe you'd talk about a feeling that red gives you, or a mood that you think red has. Suddenly this concrete thing, this thing we know so well, is almost impossible to describe. In this passage from Joel, we hear a description of another kind, of God. God is gracious and merciful, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love, and relents from punishing. These words, or words very similar to them, appear throughout the Old Testament, over 20 times, typically in this exact order. They are repeated so often, and in such a similar manner, that they stand out to us. They sort of jump off the page. This is a description of God, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love, and it traces throughout the narrative of the Old Testament as a description of our indescribable God, a definition of the indefinable. How do these words do to you, in your eyes, describing God? Do they leave anything out? Is there anything you want to add? If someone asked you to describe God, what would you say? Maybe it's easier than describing the color red, but maybe it's not. What I know is this: God is much too big to get our arms around, much too wonderful to know completely. But that doesn't mean that God doesn't want to be described, to be known. God wants to be known by us, even as God can never be fully known. So how might you take one more step toward knowing God today?